Welcome to the new YouTube channel. If you haven't already done it, hit the subscribe button to follow us all season long for updates and content. So happy that you're here. It's going to be a great year.
The Seattle Seahawks got a new head coach. We've talked about that, in our off-season episodes. Mike Macdonald. What have you heard? I mean, what has changed culturally? Has anything changed in Seattle? Like, what are your expectations going into the preseason games here with Seattle?
Well, again, Mitchell, let me change my thinking cap and put my Seattle thinking cap on. It's a lot of excitement in Seattle right now, Mitchell. I don't know if the fans are hearing it. I don't know if they're seeing it in training camp, but everything I'm hearing from the players, the staff, everybody in the building is this defense that Mike Macdonald has come up with is an issue. And he's putting guys in positions. Guys are thriving in this system. There is a lot of chaos being created. Offensively, they're still figuring it out. But Geno Smith looks really good. DK looks good. I think JSN looks really good. Tyler looks good. K9, your boy, looks ready, rared up to go for another incredible season. That offensive line looks healthy as ever. So there's a lot of excitement. There's going to be some fantasy football rankings that change defensively based on some insider information, but we're going to get to that later on. But I think there's gonna be some heads turned, the first few games Seattle plays, especially defensively. I think people are still on the fence about Geno, but Geno's a guy. He's a guy. He's a guy, and I'm gonna go with that. You can judge him off his first 10 years and how up and down that went, or you can judge him off the last couple. I'm gonna judge him off the last couple because he's been a guy. When healthy, he's playing at a really high level. He looks great in training camp. He's dialed in as he's ever been. DK looks great, ready for a breakout season. They have all the pieces in place to make an incredible run. And if that defense plays like they've been practicing, whoa, there's going to be some changing of the guards in some areas of this National Football League. But I think there's a lot to be excited about. Obviously, it's first-time coordinators in the National Football League. That's always tough. That's always, a mystery how that's going to go, how you deal with the trials and tribulations. These aren't college kids. These aren't kids you could just say, hey, go over here and jump up through this hoop. These are grown men. You got to talk to them differently, got to coach them differently, and it's an adjustment dealing with that in the chaos of a real game. And I think that's going to be a bit of adjustment for all this entire staff. Mike Macdonald has never been a head coach, but in terms of everything I've heard, and everything they could put on tape and could do to inspire a fan base and inspire a team, Mitchell, they have done it. They have done it. They are raring to go. Obviously, they did the whole picture takedown thing of the hallway walking towards the team meetings, and then they did the whole change back and forth and stand in front of the tip picture during the draft. Obviously, John Snyder and Mike have a sense of humor, but it's been really positive over there, and I'm heading to a training camp practice later on this week to check them out live again. But Seattle fans got a lot to be excited about right now. Hopefully, it pans out how it looks and how it sounds right now, Mitchell. But really positive.
Like you said, Richard, last season you saw glimpses. They just couldn't stay healthy. The O-line was beat up, but they got all the weapons. K9 looks to be in shape. Rare and ready to go. If Geno can stay healthy with this wide receiving core, who knows? They might be able to knock out San Francisco and take over the NFC West. It's going to be a challenge. Richard, let's go down to Texas.
Well, one more second, Mitchell, because there's been so many pieces that they got on the defense that you really don't appreciate. It's just like in Baltimore. There were guys that had career years that weren't expected to have career years. Now you got really proven players. Jaron Reed is really revved up to have an incredible year. I think he's going to do a great job. Tyreek Woolen has been having an incredible camp. I think this team has all the playmakers that they need defensively. The defensive line is really, really incredible. Let me go down the list because I thought it was an embarrassment of riches when they got some of these guys, and then they drafted a guy in the first round. I was like, oh, well, that just seems a bit much because you got Leonard Williams, you got Jaron Reed, you got Draymond Jones, who they paid a ton of money for. You got Uchenna Nwosu, who's back after coming off an injury. You got Byron Murphy, who you took in the first round. That's a lot of money. That's a lot they got invested on the D line. So I don't want to hear anything about they're not investing in the D line or how they're going to stop the run. They got D linemen. They have a ton of D linemen that better show up and better play big this year. Devin Witherspoon is probably the best player on this defense right now with how he played last season. Very pissed off that he didn't make the top 100, which is just odd. I just didn't get that. I mean, I thought he would make it, but sometimes when you're young, he was a top 5 pick though. So usually you get top 5 respect, but I think this team has got everything, but they need their big time players to play big. And so they need these guys to play big. I don't know what's going on with Byron Murphy. I have not heard a ton about him outside of some off the field stuff, some nonsense, but I haven't heard a lot of big splash from his training camp. So hopefully he does something in the preseason to get these fans excited. But right now he's not even a starter on the depth chart, which isn't anything to be upset about because you got big time players in Jaron Reed, who's played football for a long time and played some great football, and Leonard Williams. Those guys are foundational pieces to this organization, but you kind of left scratching your head. Where does he fit in then? You know, that's one of the things the questions that are going to have to get answered over the next couple of weeks of why'd you draft this kid when you just paid all this money for Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, Leonard Williams, and then you draft a kid that is going to back these guys up? I don't know.
Well, depth in the trenches, Richard. If you can build that D line, like you said, with Witherspoon and Rick Woolen, I mean, that defense looks like they have the potential to be a very good defense in this NFL. Richard, you talked about the NFL top 100. I'm just curious here. Tyreek Hill goes number 1. Patrick Mahomes number 4. How in the world is Patrick Mahomes? And then I see that Aaron Rodgers makes the list after playing, 5 snaps? Your thoughts on the NFL's top 100? I know you appeared high up in that list several times. What do you make of this year's list?
I don't know, Mitchell. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what they're doing with this one. For Tyreek to go 1, you at times during the season you could say that. You could say, man, he looked unbelievable. Maybe at 2 or 3, and you can make a case for Lamar Jackson being 2 or 3, MVP of the league. But when a guy for the third season cruises his team through, then gets into the playoffs, tears apart 3 of the best teams in the National Football League. It wasn't like he didn't have Murderer's Row. He had Murderer's Row. He had to go through a gauntlet to get there. And everybody said, he gets through this one, you got to give him credit because that Baltimore defense and Mike Macdonald, they were tearing everybody apart. It was a big, huge headline when they had that game against San Francisco 49ers with the 5 turnovers, the touchdowns. They just disrupted that team, went to San Francisco, beat the brakes off of them, came back and put the league on notice. And here come Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Well, that defense is cool, but Kansas City's defense showed up. Their offense scored 17, just enough to win it. But in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, he did more than enough to beat the San Francisco 49ers, kept them in that game, made some fantastic plays down the stretch, won the game in overtime. I just don't see how you can put him anywhere but first and make it a legit case. I mean, you're losing credibility here. You're losing credibility if this guy is 4. You're losing credibility because in the playoffs, when it mattered most, that's pretty much where a lot of these things are judged. Because that's the last football you see. So if you're judging things off the regular season, I guess I could see it being ranked the way it is. But if you're ranking it with the full breadth, the full scope of everything you got to offer and everything we saw last season from preseason football to the end of the Super Bowl, you can't put him 4, Mitchell. You can't. That's disgusting. That's a discredit to the list. That's discrediting your list and what you guys have done because Reek wasn't one. He wasn't one. He got bullied by L'Jarius Sneed in the playoffs. He got bullied in a big way in the biggest game. He came back to Kansas City, could have had a huge impact on that game. They singled him up, they doubled him, but at the end of the day, you saw him getting pressed to the ground a few times in the playoffs. You can't be one. You can't be one, Mitchell. I'm sorry. You can be 2 or 3, but you can't be 1 after that. And if you put those things if you put all of that into your calculation, then I don't know how you do that. Trent Williams, I understand he probably could have been a little lower. Best left tackle in football, about to get paid again. That's why he's not practicing and playing right now, because he knows, hey, I'm 36, but there's more money to be gotten. And if I'm going to get it at the end, I'm going to get it at the end. But there's not many people arguing that he doesn't deserve it. And if you look at the rankings with where they put Brandon Ayuk, I thought that was incredibly low at 66. I said, wow, sheesh. I know they don't have that. They got to hire a bit of respect for what BA put on tape. But yeah, that I didn't like.
Well, the fact that Patrick Mahomes appears at 4 and Aaron Rodgers even appears on this list discredits this list beyond measure.